What's up, gang? How you guys doing? It is Lieutenant Sal Blue, 28-year law enforcement veteran and the author of the top 25 mistakes en route to the good life. Coming at you today with my daily podcast. You know, this is kind of high energy for me, right? The standing podcast that I'm doing as opposed to me sitting down. So I'm just trying something different. You guys let me know how you like it, how you dislike it. Do you like the more casual, sit back, relaxed podcast? I got the little chairs. I can do that as well in front of the fireplace. But just trying, just mixing it up, man. But bringing you the message, no matter what, of the mistakes that I made en route to the good life, right? And when I talk about that, guys, and I talk about mistakes, it doesn't mean you need to make these mistakes in order to have a good life. What it means is you should be avoiding these mistakes at all costs. At all costs. So I'm sitting here and I'm putting myself out there, being transparent and letting you guys know the mistakes that I am making that you need to avoid in your life, right? So that is what I'm doing, guys. I want you guys to understand that there is no need for you to have a bad life when someone else has mapped it out ahead of you, things that you should not do. In this book right here, Top 25 Mistakes, there are at least 25 cautionary tales that you do not need to venture down, guys. Read them, be entertained by them, enjoy them, be excited about it, but don't venture down this path. As they say, this is not for the faint of heart. So some serious stuff is going on in here, but I want you guys to check it all out. My top 25 mistakes around the good life, man. So listen, in today's podcast, I'll tell you what, you know, guys, I'm always, every now and then I get into my little pity parties of me worrying about things, what's going on in my life, and woe is me, and sometimes I get that way, right? I'm not fully in gratitude, and when you're not fully in gratitude, man, sometimes you drift off into the wrong direction, and you lose focus on what you're doing right now and how far you've become. So I don't want you guys to be losing focus on what you're doing. I want you to stay vigilant. You know, we used to love to say that in law enforcement. I want you to stay vigilant on what you're currently doing, right? But always check in and make sure it is the right thing that you're doing, right? Make sure that you are making the right moves. Make sure that you are making the right decisions. And the only way you're going to be able to do that on a regular basis is to be checking in with somebody who has gotten it done, right? So that's what you want to do. So today, as I'm thinking about my podcast, I heard a comment, right? I heard a comment today, and it was about my circle of influence, and it hit me right where it matters most, guys. And you know me, if you guys know me, where it matters most is where? My emotions. That's right. It hit me in my emotions, guys. It got me to thinking. And I think that most of us move like that. When something hits you in your emotions, you begin to think like, am I making the right move? Did I make the right move? Did I do the right thing? Right? So it hit me in my emotions. Now, it is a statement that I decided that I would base tonight's podcast on. And the reason why is because I decided that it's several events, right, within my circle of influence that I won't be attending this year, as opposed to going to all the social events and being part of everything that my circle of influence has. I decided this year I'm backing off a lot of that. I may go to one event total, but through the next 12 months, I'm backing off dramatically on a lot of these events. And I will tell you why as I get into my podcast, right? And it's all based on the conversation I had with my mentor and the statement that he made to me. It just hit me. It hit me good. So when I was speaking with my mentor about my recent setbacks, right? My recent business setbacks and me not being where I felt that I should have been, right? I was like, my calculations are off, right? I just knew, right? But sometimes you can't always determine what people are going to do, how people are going to react, how people are going to think, how people are going to accept you, right? You just have to keep going until the right flock finds you, right? It is not always the flock that you're currently talking to. It may be a whole new group of people that will find you. So you got to keep pushing forward. I want to tell you guys that right now. So don't be discouraged if your current group of people aren't vibing with you. Maybe you need to move on to a different group of people to give that message that matters to them. So understand that, guys, when we talk about messages and groups of people. But anyway, let's get back to this conversation that me and my mentor had, right? I was talking to him about my recent setbacks, and halfway through my pity party, right, he asked me a question, and he always does that and threw me off a little bit. And the question he asked me was, how long have you been retired? Right? And so I'm thinking that I'm telling my story and he's letting me vent and get it out. But he just stopped me and just asked me, how long have you been retired? And he always said something profound to me, but I wasn't thinking about it, so I was kind of caught up in my emotions, and I answered him quickly. I was like, 2016, why? You know, why are you asking me that, is what I'm saying sarcastically. And that's when it hit me, right? He said, you need to change your environment, right? He hit me with this, period. Just, you need to change your environment. And so I'm thinking of, you know, what environment am I in, right? And he went a little deeper. He said, if your circle of influence does not inspire you, it is no longer a circle. It is a cage that you have chosen to be locked in. Now, when he said this to me, I guess it was like, boom. God, this man, he has some nerve talking to me like that, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, but the deal is this, right? He used that analogy because I'm in law enforcement. I'm in law enforcement, and I'm always locking the cages on people when they break the law, whenever. And I spent 28 years doing this, right? So obviously, all of my circle of influence, all they talk about all the time is the stories of the things that happened when we used to be on the job. And so because they talk about that, and because I'm moving out to doing other things outside of the group, a lot of times the group pulls me back and locks me back in that cage of what we are currently doing, which is living in retirement, not trying to recreate ourselves all over again. Because I'm trying to recreate myself all over again, and the group doesn't like that. So because the group doesn't like that, my mentor is right. It is no longer a circle. It is a cage that I've chosen to lock myself in, and I need to remove myself from that situation immediately. And that's what he said to me. He said, you need to remove yourself from that situation immediately. And he said it as if it was an abusive relationship. So it really hit me in my emotions, right? Because I chose to be in this abusive relationship. And when I say abusive, yeah, your circle of influence can be very abusive, because what they do is they continually fight against you to stop you from moving out of the group. So if you have bigger, better dreams, they subtly and sometimes without them even thinking, right, beat up those dreams constantly to stop you from moving outside of the group, guys. So understand that, right? When it comes to the circle of influence, if you're going to change, you're probably going to have to change the circle of influence. And I want you guys to understand that as we get into this. You got to get out of that cage. So now that's when it hit me, right? I have the ability to change my circumstances anytime I desire. Anytime. So when my mentor told me that I need to remove myself from these circumstances, that's something I can do immediately, right? I can just decide not to attend certain events. I can just decide not to entertain certain phone calls. I can just decide not to do the certain hangouts. And And I can do that immediately. I don't have to wait to do these things, guys. When it comes to changing your life, you do not have to wait forever to make these changes, guys. You can make these changes to your life right here, right now, immediately. So understand that when it comes to creating the life that you want, guys, understand that you can make those changes immediately. Um, Now, so if I can make these changes immediately, guys, why was I engaging in a pity party? Right? I mean, obviously, my mentor called me on it, but if he wouldn't have called me on it, if I wasn't happen to be fortunate enough to have that conversation during that moment in my life, right, I would have continued on with that pity party. Why is that? Why would I have continued on with that pity party? Let me give you the answer to that question, guys. And if you, unless you already came up with the answer to that, right? If you haven't, then here it is, man. The answer to that question is because my circle of influence has allowed me to continue with that pity party, right? They allowed me, okay? Because to me failing, right, is me staying in the group, number one, and me failing even though, right, I tried and I'm still continually trying to move to a different level of my life, a different lifestyle that I'm living, right? Even though I'm making those attempts, as I speak to my group about it, they find comfort in me not moving out of the group, right? That means that I'm going to be there for another month. I'm going to be there for another 6 months or another year, you know, so they can continue the comfort of the current status quo. That's number one. Number two is, if I do succeed and move out of the group, right, and they are present when I do this, then they will feel like they have failed the second half, or they didn't create what they should have created, right? Or they'll make some type of excuse and just say, I'm lucky, right? Despite all the hard work that I'm doing, they just say, oh man, you're lucky. I don't see it. You must have hit the lottery or something. You know how people do. But anyway, I digress, guys. But my circle of influence allows me to participate in a pity party because it gives them comfort, right? And with them giving them comfort, me not realizing, it also gave me comfort, right? So I was escaping the pain of failure, and I was bringing that failure back to the group where everybody was telling me, it's okay, it's going to be all right. These things happen. You only just retired 4 or 5 years ago. You know, why are you trying this stuff now? You need to just chill out, relax, back off a little bit, right? Those things that they tell you will rock you to sleep, guys. They will rock you to sleep, and they will zap all your dreams. And you do not want to leave this planet, okay, with a fistful of dreams and none of them fulfilled. Okay, understand that. So, as I've stated many times before, we run from pain and toward pleasure, but how you define the two is determined by our social norms, right? What's normal in the group is how we determine our pain and pleasure, right? And those social norms are validated through your circle of influence. So as my circle of influence associated my failures as something, me trying, as pain, but my failure in coming back to the group as pleasure, meaning comfort for them, and if I came back, it will be comfort for me. That was the social norm that the group created, right? Anybody who tries to move out of the group or tries to exceed what the group is currently doing, what the group is currently echoing, what the group is currently thinking, guys, is considered painful, right? And anything that the group talks about like reminiscing and talking about old times and we did this and we did that, that is considered in the group pleasure, comfort, right? reminiscing old times. We did it great. We did it good. You know, and so you have to understand that when you are dealing with your circle of influence. That happens to be my particular circle of influence. Your circle of influence may be different, but you have to pay attention to it, and you have to evaluate it each and every day to see how this is affecting your life, guys. So now, knowing this, right, after all that I just told you, let me ask you another question. What are two changes that everyone wants in their life? Two changes. What can you think of? Two changes, right? Time's up. Right? Time's up. Okay. Since this is a podcast, right? The first change is this, right? And these are things that everybody wants to change in their life. The first change is how we feel about things we have gone through in life, right? I've gone through many tragedies in my life that have affected me in a dramatic way, from my childhood all the way up to adulthood. I've been through many tragedies, and that's why I can tell a tale of so many stories, right, of bad things that happen. But most people that go through tragedies, a lot of people don't bounce back out of that. And I think that one of the things that people want to change the most is how you feel about those things that you have gone through, right? I've had family members murdered and family members alcoholics and all these types of things that traumatically scarred my life. And me personally, I want to dig deep down inside, okay, and change how I feel about all of those situations so that they don't affect my life. And I think that that's what most people want to do in their lives, right? They don't want tragedies that they've gone through to affect their life so that they can't move forward, so they can't be happy, so that they can't have joy, so that they can't experience gratitude. So a lot of people want to change how they feel about things that they're going through in life, right? The second thing is this, right? How we behave. How we behave, right? Our behaviors determine how our life is going to turn out, period, right? How you behave each and every day will blend into a set of habits of things that you do each and every day, and those habits will build up over time, and you will either have a good life or a bad life, guys. Some of the things I'm talking about maybe is overeating, right? You just eat snacks and drink soda, and you get tremendously out of shape, right? And you want to change that behavior because that behavior is painful, because you don't want to be in poor health. You don't want to be out of shape, okay? So you want to change your behavior, right? Maybe you're a smoker, right? And you know that smoking is eventually may cause you very poor health. So you want to make the changes in that smoking. You want to change your behavior, right? Smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. You want to change how you socialize because you smoke when you socialize. So all of those behaviors you want to change. So those are two things that everybody, and not smoking, I'm talking about just changing, right? Those are two things that everybody wants to do, right? You want to change some of the things that you've gone through, how you feel about them, and you want to change your behaviors so that you can create a better life for yourself. And so, in talking about that, I want to talk about yesterday, right? Yesterday I ended my podcast with a quote by Henry David Thoreau, which stated, right, things do not change, we change, right? So if things are always the same, right, it is us that changes around things, that gives us a different perspective on how we see things in life. So you have to begin to shape and mold your life to the life that you want. You have to begin to make the changes in your life and adapt your life so that you can have the life that you want. Because Everybody around you may stay the same. You will have to make the changes to change your life, guys. So, so if your life is not working out the way you want, right? I always tell people, don't wish for things to get easier. Work on getting better. Work on getting better. See, things are not going to change. Things are not going to get easier. What's going to happen is you are going to get better. When in many years, after 28 years in law enforcement, okay, there was very few things that I wasn't good at in my craft. After 28 years, you know, I did things and multitask with many things that I had to multitask with, and I did it with a smile, and I did it with ease and comfort. And because of all the reps and sets that I put in, I just got better at what I was doing. All of this stuff, a new person would come in and they would be overwhelmed. But for me, it was easy, guys. And I want to tell you that that is how things happen in life. Don't wish for things to get easier. Work on getting better. So that's one way to make sure you begin to implement changes, right? And another thing I want you guys to know, right? No one is going to come along and push you, right, to make changes or make the changes you need to make in your life. Nobody's coming along. If you want your life to be better, you have to make the changes. Nobody's going to be like, hey, you need to do this to make your life better. As a matter of fact, when you don't make the changes, people just look at you and go, well, that's one person I don't have to worry about in the competition ladder. That's one person I won't have to step over, right? He has no desire to make his life better. So that's what they do. I want you guys to understand that, okay? Nobody's coming along to help you to change your life, and nobody's going to push you to make your life better, right? As a matter of fact, believe it or not, guys, your family and your friends, right? They probably will prefer that you don't change, right? As we talked about in our circle of influence, they probably will prefer that you remain the same. Then that way, they don't have to figure out how to change themselves to adapt to a different you, right? So it's a lot easier and it's a lot less comfort for them to remain status quo of how they are and how they've dealt with you all of this time, right? I know for me, I probably drive my wife mad, right? She's used to it now, but I'm always changing. But fortunately for her, I'm always changing to improve myself, to be a better husband and a better person and to give greater value to people all around me. So, okay, those are the changes I'm making, guys. So, hopefully you guys are making positive changes like that as well each and every day. So now that you realize this, guys, now that you realize that you need to change, right now, you need to change right now. You don't wait till tomorrow, right? You don't have to endure this pain any longer. You can change right now, right? And I want you to understand that it is only your responsibility. Nobody else is coming to save you. I told you guys this, right? Then I need you guys to take these 3 steps, right? These 3 steps, we're going to wrap it up with this. These 3 steps to move from your current circumstances. So I have 3 steps that I'd like to talk to you guys about, and in these 3 steps, you're going to take these 3 steps, write them down, okay, and implement them in your life the best way possible each and every day, right? The first step I need you guys to do is I need you guys to believe that something must change. So if you have something in your life that is not going right, that means that you understand that something must change, right? An example that I used before is I'm in poor health, right? I'm in poor health. I cannot stay in poor health or I will have a very short lifespan. And I want to see my grandchildren grow up, and I want to see their grandchildren grow up, and I want to be as healthy as possible through all of those experiences. So, guess what? I understand that something needs to change in that area of my life, right? So you guys figure out what area of your life it is and understand that something needs to change. The second step, guys, the second step is you also must believe I must be the one who changes it. That's right. You, not me. You must make your own changes to your own life. And the reason why, guys, is because if you don't, you will do like so many people all around us see all the time. They're waiting for a hero. They're waiting for a hero. They're waiting for somebody else to come along and make their lives better. And it's not going to happen. They're waiting for a new president. They're waiting for a new governor. They're waiting for the second coming of Christ. They're just waiting. They're waiting for someone else to come along and make their life better. And the fact of the matter is, no one's coming. No one's coming along to make your life better. It must be you. It must be you. You got to make the change, guys. So understand that when it comes to creating the life that you want. The last thing is, guys, you need to believe I can change it. That's right. Believe in yourself that you can make the change. I can change it. Whatever it is, you can do it, right? And you're responsible for it. So you're going to do the steps that it takes to make it happen, right? Now, understand this, and we'll finish out with this, right? Nothing changes until we change the feelings that we link to the circumstances that we are experiencing. Now, in saying that, guys, I want you guys to understand this. Because we move in pain and pleasure areas, right, to and from wherever we're going, right, we have to change how we associate the pain and pleasure with the changes we need to make in our lives, right? So, as I've said before, right, if your circle of influence is always allowing you to have a pity party of comfort, then you will remain in that pity party and you won't make changes. But if in your head you tell yourself that failure is exciting because you get to write down and evaluate the steps that you've taken to get where you need to go, then you will continue to make that journey because you'll say, well, fine, then I'll just fail as often as possible, and eventually I'll have the formula to get what I want out of life, right? And so that's what you'll begin to associate with failure. It will no longer be painful. It is an educational process. And so because it's an educational process, it begins to become more exciting. And that's just one of the circumstances that I'm talking about, guys, is changing your association with things so that your entire emotional system, okay, starts to move toward things that you would like to have in your life because of the steps that you are taking to get there. And those steps now become pleasurable steps because you understand the journey, right? You understand how far you're going to go. And quick example of that before I wrap it up today, guys, is you ever go on a trip, right? You ever go on a trip and you drive in a distance, maybe it's like 4 or 5 hours away. We just ended up recently going up to the Catskills and staying in a beautiful area up there in the Catskills. And Deer Mountain or something like that we stayed at. But anyway, the journey took forever for us to get there, right? Took forever for us to get there, to find it, lost navigation signal. It was crazy, right? We eventually found it. And it took us a very long time to get there. On the journey home, we got back home in it seemed like record time. And I'm talking like an hour and a half less to get home than it took to get there. And I thought we were taking the same route. And that just goes to show you guys that when you are familiar with something and you are comfortable with something, right, you tend to move faster. Or maybe time moves faster. Who knows, guys? And when you're not familiar with something, things tend to move slow because you're always thinking about the next step in the next process, guys. So when you begin to implement your change, it may seem slow in the beginning, guys, but as you continue this daily actions, right, it's going to start to get really fast and rapid, and you're just going to blow through these changes, and you're going to begin to get the life that you want, guys. So listen, I'm wrapping up for today, guys. I'm wrapping up for today. I just want you guys to make sure that you hop on over to Lieutenant Sal Blue and pick up your copy of the top 25 mistakes in Routes to the Good Life. All right? I'm giving it away for free copies that I'm giving away for you guys as well. Make sure you hit me up on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook at Lieutenant Sal Blue. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you want me to talk about on podcast tomorrow. And also, guys, hop on over to the Facebook group, Top 25 Mistakes, and where second half is help, first half is to create the life that they want. So, and also, guys, give me your opinion. Let me know what you want me to do. I'm thinking about doing a weekly webinars. I am going to be doing them. I'm just trying to figure out the format of how I'm going to do them. Weekly webinars, I'm probably going to either do them on Facebook or Zoom or whatever I'm going to do. And once I begin to do them, I'll be doing them every week for God knows when. So let me know, give me your opinion on that as well. And we can have like just one-on-one live conversations about all the things that I'm talking about here in my book. And you guys can follow along me as I write my new books and help you guys to create the life that you want as I also grow my business. So this is Lieutenant Sal Blue, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. You guys have a great night. All right? Deuces.